Hi, this is Arik,
And Aurelia,
and we're here to talk about life and interesting things.
or so we think, but as always, we let you be the judge of that.
But either way, what we have to talk about is
Ageless.
Wow, so we're really in exciting times, actually. So we are in, at the beginning of the new normal. I mean, it's May 18th, 2020, and here in Germany, where we are recording this episode of Ageless, the beer gardens and the outdoor restaurants have opened.
Yeah. I also find this interesting, but I do not think that this is the new normal because, from here, my living room window, I have spectacular view onto my favorite beer garden here. And I see people wearing like space visors, like the waiters and everybody. And I really don't want this to be the new normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. But like Carrie said, a lot of Asian cultures wear masks anyway when they're out and about.
But that's Bavaria.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not forget that. So, excuse me and no, but for now, it's very exciting, that we can gather around some table and drink beer.
Yeah. And so that's I think really exciting. I mean, it feels lighter, but I think this kind of what I want to talk about today is abandonment. We've had to abandon these normal ways of living and interacting. Like, we haven't been served, we haven't been going to restaurants for at least 50 days or whatnot. Some countries are still in lockdown, and I think a lot of abandonment issues are being brought up or have been brought up for people either being abandoned or needing to abandon certain ways of doing things. And I don't know, what do you think about abandonment per se? I mean, is there such thing as being abandoned?
Yeah, I abandon things like you said. Like I just leave things behind, and another word for that would be I abandon that. But also, yes, I can see that people, they will not probably call it abandoned, but I can see that you have a point there that deep down they feel abandoned, even though they wouldn't call it that.
Right.
Because I'm just thinking about all the people that are living by themselves. Starting with my mom. Even though, of course, she's well taken care of, and my amazing sister has been going and seeing her like probably every day, and we have been there in the very beginning, like just from outside, and she at the open window. But then I think 3 weeks ago we were allowed to just visit just one person at a time, and now we can visit again, both of us. However, we're still technically not allowed to touch her or give a hug or something. And and this, I think, is absolutely tragic. Being physical and being touched is like such a big part of our well-being. And so for everybody who lives alone, regardless of their age, I think, there might be the energy of feeling abandoned somewhere hiding in there, even though, like I said before, it may not be classified like that.
But probably these feelings of abandonment were there before quarantine started. I mean, how can you really feel abandoned by anything?
Yeah, I'm probably not the best person to ask that question because I never feel abandoned.
Right, exactly. But a lot of people have accused you of abandoning them.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's for sure. Oh, yeah, no, that is true. People think like I'm abandoning them.
But
But when
are
really,
you?
no. And
Tell
I
me.
told everybody who accused me of that from
Everybody
way back
that
then.
vocalized it to you.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I said
Because
no.
I'm sure a lot of people like they feel abandoned by you, but like they won't even say it. Even if like they're still in contact with you, they probably feel abandoned. Like a certain level of your relationship's different, or they don't see you as much. COVID-19 and quarantine or not, like just this feeling of abandonment. I mean, so how did do you like you don't feel like you abandoned anybody? Like
No.
you wanna so can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like
I mean, I am just living my life, and today it looks like this, and tomorrow it looks a different way, and it's, if you throw two pebbles in a pond, and then you have like these interference patterns, and let's imagine that these are two people, who meet. And then for a while, like their paths are intersecting, and then, a relationship forms and it looks a certain way, but then, it's like we move on. Everybody moves on, and then things look different. And then I have known people who have then wanting to keep the status quo, and that's just not working for me. I don't know. Is that what you're talking about?
so I guess to kind of like translate what you're saying into like just layman's terms is like I guess you're talking about if you have attachment problems, then you can feel abandoned.
By me, definitely.
Or by any, yeah. I mean, of course, there are healthy attachments. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about the like this neediness, this attachment, like this clingy, needy status quo that you're bringing up, like used to comfort zone kind of things in regards to not only you but anything. Anyone can feel abandoned, I guess, because kind of like how when you're saying like, oh, I'm just living my life. I mean, anybody who abandons anything, like really in the worst case of like neglection, they would say that.
Oh.
Like I've had abandonment issues that I had to really work through. Many of them, as it's also indicated in my astrological chart. This is just something that I've worked through, and of course, like the people that I felt abandoned by, it was coming from my clinginess and neediness. Even as a child, I mean, yeah, you need to depend on stuff and people. That's a whole other subject altogether. People made like these accusations that like I was abandoned by my mother and whatnot, and more or less I was. But of course, she would tell you like she was just living her life.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's obviously not what I'm saying at all, because I'm not talking about people who are dependent on me. Like, I mean, that would be like
that's what
selfish.
It's about. So codependence then.
Like dependence or codependence and selfishness.
You just got it. That's what it's about.
I'm not selfishly living my life, and now I have a child and it's inconveniencing me, and so I leave the child wherever, at the doorstep of the next church, and just move on to living my life. That's totally not what I meant. Like, I really meant like this natural cycle. And even though you felt the need to translate my example, I think it's a very simple and nice visual for that. Because, these rings that like a pebble forms when you throw it in a pond, like they spread out. And if I have two pebbles, then those rings spread out too, and they are bound to meet those other rings, and that's the interference, and these are the patterns that they form, which means like they interact for a while, and then it teethers out, it stops.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and this is like normal, and then if you artificially try to hold on to that and recreate that pattern, that's then, I'm really not good at that. And so then people feel like that I abandon them. But if, everybody is just having a healthy movement, then new patterns are forming.
So wait, what are the rings in this analogy in terms of abandonment?
No, this is just like the times or the situations where two people meet.
Outside of the codependent or the dependent relationship or the attached relationship or...
Any relationship.
Any relationship, okay.
Any relationship, like that energy where, two people meet,
mm-hmm.
and like in a dependent relationship, that would mean that it doesn't peter out, It's like these two pebbles are very, very close, and they sort of have a echoing effect on each other, and they bounce off each other and create
resonance.
Like this, this resonance and
attractor fields.
Exactly. So like with us, has been like that for decades, we can call it.
Ageless.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That we're bouncing off each other, our energy bounces off, and this comes with the honesty in a relationship and the not clinginess. This is like where we're all changing all the time, and so we have to read these new patterns and then interact with those. But if you would hang on to the way things were, like whatever 20 years ago when we met, I really don't think that would work.
Right, but I build upon it.
Yes, in a healthy relationship, you build upon it, and
I do.
In a unhealthy,
and I also destroy what's no longer needed.
Exactly, like you abandon that.
Yeah.
In an unhealthy relationship, it doesn't work that way. It's like, then let's say, okay, like I am not the same person I was 10 years ago. And then somebody treating me that way, as if I were still that person. I have to say, thank you, but no thank you. Have you looked at me recently? Are you having a relationship with me? Or are you actually having a relationship with an idea of me?
You're giving me good ideas to put into our Ageless Spotify playlist.
Okay, well, thank you. Anyhow, then I have to say, no, I'm not going to play that game. You either start interacting with me, or we're not interacting at all, because I cannot do that. And then people feel abandoned. But if you really look at it, then, and that's what I tell them all the time. I said, like, really, you're abandoning me,
right,
because, excuse me,
changing.
Like, exactly.
Get with it.
You are not with it. Like, you are not even seeing me
They
anymore.
interact with the idea of you.
Yeah. So,
and they hold on to it, and then they put you in a box.
Exactly.
And then they're just interacting with that, or punching it, or attacking it, or whatever
the interaction looks like.
It's very interesting.
It's not me. So if anybody, I always say, you're abandoning me. I have never abandoned a person in my life.
So most people are just in relationships with their egos.
Yeah.
Like in their projections.
Yeah.
And I can totally see that. Let's get into that more after this break. And I'm going to suggest everybody listens to our Spotify playlist, Ageless, in between, to help digest what we're talking about. This episode of Ageless is brought to you by Aurelia Essential Oils, wellness for you and everyone around you. Be sure to subscribe and listen to Ageless on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or YouTube. Okay, we're back, and we're going to continue our conversation on abandonment issues, which I definitely think will have to be like a 10-parter, because this is no way we can talk about this in one episode. This is like workshop status, but I think what resonated so deeply within me is that what you said is it's about attachment, but also like this codependence, and also how we are just really mostly having relationships with our projections onto people, and that's and like how I know that a lot of people have accused you of abandoning them, but as you've just explained, like actually no, they abandoned you because they didn't change, and they just wanted you to stay as that ripple, like just okay, like the rock hit the water there, and that's the relationship, and they think that those ripples are gonna last forever, but guess what? Like the rings of Saturn, they won't.
Exactly.
Those ripples will not last forever. Like they are going to fade out, and then you need to make another splash. And I think people are afraid to make splashes, especially in relationships. So, I mean, really, we abandon others, and then we think we're being abandoned because our codependent needs are not being filled. Do I understand that correctly? I mean, everything you said is just like mind-blowing. We could call this podcast Mind Blower.
I like Ageless better.
Yeah, for sure. But
because if you really think about it, then agelessness is mind-blowing in and of itself.
Oh yeah, I mean I can attest to that. And I mean you used our relationship as an example, and that's good. I mean, I have had to change so many times, and so many people, hundreds felt abandoned by me when I wasn't living up to their expectations, and I mean I will never live up to like other people's old projections and expectations of me. And also in your reality too, people felt abandoned by you when we were getting together. And it's not that a soulmate relationship is isolating, it's inclusive, but totally. If people are just jealous or have hatred or whatever the reasons are, I mean that's a whole other podcast, if you guys want us to talk about that, we can, but it's just like you have to change, otherwise it's gonna get old, and then it's gonna get boring, and then you're justified to abandon it.
Oh, that's a really good one. That's exactly true, because I've been recently actually thinking about a very old friend I had, like Maggie, So I don't think you found me on podcast, but if you do, hi. I think of you recently a lot. I hope you're doing okay. I mean, we were like really, really, really close for a very long time. Guess who I was at that time? I was the clubber, and we would going to clubs all the time, and we would hit the scene, and we were right there. We knew everybody who needed to be known, and it was just amazing. Yeah. Well, after 10 years maybe, I didn't want to do that anymore. I had thoroughly changed. Mm-hmm. I moved to Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. I became a healer.
Where everything closes much earlier than in Europe anyway.
That's for sure.
So the environment didn't really support this club. I mean, of course there are clubs. I mean, that's where I did it.
It was one time. I mean, you have to, like, I went to the Mayan and everything, and I was like, oh, that's cool, and I can check this off. That's really not me. It wasn't the scene where I, like from Munich, that I didn't like anymore. It was just, no, I had changed.
Right.
I didn't want that anymore. Mm-hmm. And so then visiting with that person and then being looked at as if I was still that person, mm-hmm. that just didn't work. And I told her that actually many times because I really cared for her. I said, I really, you have to stop doing that. I'm like, now I'm having like a spiritual practice. I became the spiritual person, and I said,
you were always a spiritual person.
Yeah, I was, of course, but now it looked more like that.
You were expressing it.
I was expressing it
in
a different way. And so then she started to go all New Age on me, and I was like,
which has nothing to do with spirituality.
Exactly, that's
reference episode 2, the Akashic Records.
Exactly. I was like, that's really not who I am. Come on. Like, you have to start doing ABC. Otherwise, we are going to drift apart. And she would just not either hear me, understand me, or just was too stubborn to change. Either way.
Like she probably wanted to bring you, or not her particular, but I think what happens is that people want to bring you into their understanding of you.
Wow. That feels okay. I mean, not okay in terms of that this is okay, but I can feel that's exactly maybe what they're trying
Like,
to do.
Aurelia,
And then I feel so
you're on my
uncomfortable.
stage, and your role, your script is right here.
Yeah.
And there's no room for improv.
Yeah.
You cannot rewrite my stage.
Hmm.
Like, once again, like just being in my own house of mirrors, but not really being in the carnival or being in, like, in the real life, in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of course your ego identity, like who you interact with people, that's not who you are either. But in the essence.
Yeah.
But how you choose to express yourself should be up to you, not to another person.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautifully said. I can totally relate to that. And I think this is bringing it back to our relationship is why our relationship is as new as it was on day one.
Believe it or not. Mm-hmm.
Because we really allow each other to be that new person all the time.
Absolutely. And I think, like, if, you're a parent and then your first impression of your child is either in the womb or when they come out, and then I think if you're a good parent, you also allow you change with your children and don't say, oh, because they took all the candy when they were little, like they're selfish. There's so many, and they'll always be selfish. I mean, of course you have the nature and you see the vessel of the child and stuff and whatnot, but also you can allow them to change, because that's the longest relationship that they will have, ideally. Because they have you, and then that's many years until they die. I mean, if it's their karma is good enough that they die before the children. But it's like, they also, parents have that task of having to abandon themselves in a way so that they don't abandon the other.
Yeah, but then also, I know many people who had to cut ties with their parents because the parents could not make that step, and they could not just, then change. And but on the other hand, I also know of one mother who could actually do it, who could then change and get her child back.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom did it.
Yes, she did it. I thought it was for you to say. But that's very brave and it's amazing. And like to watch their relationship is just fantastic. But the amount of courage and change that went into that. Wow, you almost must say, oh, I understand if they just stay on their high horse and abandon.
Yeah, I mean, we both went through a lot. I mean, transformation is part of life. And that's, one way or another, it's, I think that if you have that bond of love, that one way or another, lifetimes or a lifetime or years or minutes or seconds, it will, love will redirect that transformative energy.
Yeah, even though I have to say it will not always look like that, you end up together.
No, absolutely not. But actually, what do you think is worse? So like with the parents or anyone that you've had a long relationship with, maybe you've substituted your parents for your spouse or your relationship, or you even went the opposite way and rebelled. Like, what do you think is worse? Like cutting off that relationship or taking on the role?
Oh, well, that's a no-brainer.
Knowing that they can't change.
Oh, if you know that they can change and it's an act of compassion, then I'm all for it.
But nobody can do that except for you.
Because, this is then literally only, when I dance on their floor, and that's not 24/7, which means I do not become this person. Like, I'm not bending over backwards to fulfill their need, whatever. You know? It's
Well,
like,
that I think that we're gonna probably have to save for like an actual workshop or something, because that is some advanced spiritual practice right there.
no, okay.
You know.
Either way, so that's then working. However, no, to if I bend over backwards, like in that codependent way, just because I'm afraid to let go of the relationship, then of course that's really bad.
Yeah.
I'd rather abandon, or you know.
I don't think people. I think people try to spin it to themselves that they're doing one, but really they're doing the other. I mean, that is really difficult to actually do that, and to maybe you start doing it, but check with yourself if you even remember to check with yourself on day 4. You know, like think of the holidays. You know, so either way, it's like about this abandonment, and that's really interesting. So no, there's definitely more that we can talk about with that, but I think we covered a lot of ground now already. So let us know what you guys think about all of this, and if you want us to elaborate more. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I guess we're about to abandon you guys, because we are going to finish that podcast. Just kidding. You know we're not abandoning you. I mean, one section of our life together has now ended. The podcast ends, and that's it. We're done. Until the next episode. So would you actually feel abandoned? No, you would think that's like the normal rhythm of life. We engage, and then we disengage.
Inhale, exhale.
Beautiful.
And exhalation is not an abandonment, and neither is the masseuse when the massage is over.
That's right. And this is the truth, or should be the conscious truth for all of our relationships. And then we can all stay happy together, at least for the time we're together.
This has been Arik.
And Aurelia.
And you've just listened to an episode of
Ageless.
See you guys next time.
Bye.